free and the home of the brave. I'm a proud American from my birth to the grave. 47's the top, took a bullet for all. Didn't flinch, didn't run, still the answer the call. And we said, be tight, be tight, be tight. Officer Tatum show. Be tight, be tight, be tight. Officer Tatum show. Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. I'm a proud American from my birth to the grave. 47's the top, took a bullet for all. Didn't flinch, didn't run, still the answer the call. And we said, be tight, be tight, be tight. Officer Tatum show. Be tight, be tight, be tight. Officer Tatum show.
If you don't believe that we are in a fight today, you're sleeping under a rock. If you get hit and you lay down and you cry and you fold up in the corner, definitely you will not win the fight. We show up to win. Our culture needs a lot of you young people in here to step up and stand out. There is nothing or no principality, power, division, devil can stop us when we're united. They can only get you when you're divided. When I see the American flag, I see us progressing to something that can be awesome and great. And if you don't plan on winning big, you might as well go on today.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies, welcome back to the Officer Tatum Show. I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about today. First is a shooting that happened in Seattle on the waterfront, which was this. I don't know how stupid can you be that you end up shooting a man who you claim stole valor, and he happened to be a real veteran. Thank God the man didn't die. But this guy is gotta be the weirdest, silliest, stupidest person with a gun in his hand that I've ever seen in my life. It's like one of those people that just, we do have the right to keep and bear arms, right? That shall not be infringed. But some people don't need a gun. You can have it, that don't mean you need it. Because if you this stupid that you shoot a man in a wheelchair and be wrong, something ain't right. Let me go through this real quick. Let me play the video, and then we're gonna talk about it. This happened on July the 31st at 6 p.m. This was at the Starbucks Pier 55 in Seattle. For those of you who know what downtown Seattle looks like, this is in Seattle. The suspect is 32-year-old Gregory Tim, which allegedly in an unrelated event in 2020 in Florida, he drove into a Trump voting booth, a voter registration booth, which he should still be in prison for, but somehow he's free. And the gentleman that is the victim in this situation is Harold Powell, a 68-year-old disabled Navy veteran. So the white guy that you see with the backpack and the gun accused this man of stolen valor. And this is what happened. Roll the clip. So hold on, let's back up, because I think we need to get up to speed. So before the camera started, he allegedly went up to the black man in a wheelchair, whom this guy is a frequent person in the area. He sings, he does other stuff. And so everybody there knows who he is. He seemed to be harmless. He's a veteran. He got a flag on his wheelchair. He's obviously disabled. I think he's missing a leg due to an accident that happened to him. I forget what year it happened to him. I think he got run over and he lost his leg. And so he's a disabled veteran. So the guy comes up to him, challenging him about his valor, and they get into a conflict. And then This is the recording that you see. Roll the clip.
Show me your ID. Pull a fucking gun on me. Show me your ID. Pull a fucking gun on me. Pull a fucking gun on me. Put it away, sir.
So hold on.
All right.
There's no indication that the guy who's the suspect in this case is an actual veteran. So I don't know how a person who's not a veteran is calling out a veteran. Now, I don't know if he is or not, isn't, but it's no indication from what I read that the criminal in this case, Gregory Tim, is a veteran whatsoever. And he has the audacity to call out another man who's actually a disabled veteran and didn't have the wherewithal to identify that he was a veteran, or at least be reasonable enough to allow him to identify, which he don't have to, before you shoot the man and say, you pulled a gun on me. So let me articulate very clearly why this white dude is going to prison. And he deserved to go to prison, and this shooting is not justified. Now, I want to play the devil's advocate on both sides so we can have a functional argument, and I can diffuse a lot of the arguments against him being guilty. Yes, it is true that the black man, you can make me full screen. Yes, it is true that the man in the wheelchair did pull out an airsoft gun. However, and yes, also it is true, in the state of Washington, you have stand your ground laws. There's no duty to retreat. So those two things are true. The man in the wheelchair, as you see in the video, hit him with the wheelchair. He pulled out an airsoft gun, which could be perceived as a deadly weapon. And he also, in the state, there's no duty to retreat. However, and this is for everybody that carry a gun, you need to understand this. However, self-defense is vacated when you are the aggressor. So when you go up to a disabled man in a wheelchair and you begin to harass him about his credentials, you are the aggressor. And if that man decides to produce a weapon to defend himself from you being the aggressor, you don't then assume self-defense privileges. Meaning you can't start something and then say, well, I acted in self-defense when the person defends themselves. And it's normally I'm in agreement with people who shoot people, but this ain't right. You wrong. You messed up. You finna go to jail. According to legal prosecution against him, the prosecutors have charged Tim, and he's innocent until proven guilty in the court of law, but they've charged Tim with first-degree assault, which is a Class A felony. He's being held on a $750,000 bail. His defense claimed that he was acting in self-defense, citing that Powell pulled out a knife and an airsoft gun. It's not a defense, buddy. Prosecutors argue that Tim was the initial aggressor, which under Washington law undermines a self-defense claim. If convicted, Tim could potentially face life in prison. Now, I think that's kind of extreme for a person to get life in prison if they didn't kill anybody. But he should, in my opinion, be a convicted felon and lose his privilege to a firearm. According to reports, Powell, who's the victim in this situation, the man in the wheelchair, the veteran, was taken to the hospital with serious but stable conditions. He has obviously recovered. All of his major organs was missed. I think it broke a rib or fractured a rib when he was shot. Mr. Powell says that he's blessed and emphasized his gratitude to be alive because that could have went south. Now, according to records that I pulled up, Mr. Powell's status of disabled veteran who survived being hit by a drunk driver in 1991 and is a known fixture in the waterfront community, adding emotional weight to the case by people who know who he is. This guy, and if you carry a gun, be responsible. with your gun. If you got a gun on you, the last thing you want to do is to produce the firearm unless it's life or death situations or a life or death situation. You don't produce it because you're mad. You don't produce it because you're losing an argument. You don't produce it because somebody's being aggressive to you. You produce it when your life is in danger or you're saving or preventing the loss of life and serious bodily injury for other people. If this veteran was just losing his mind and running around in a wheelchair and pulling out guns to threaten people's lives, he would be justified in using deadly force against him. If he was just riding and the veteran accused him of stolen valor, ran him over with the chair, and then pulled out an airsoft gun, he would be justified in using deadly force against him. But for you to be that silly and everybody is okay, he's the type of person that could not wait to use his brand new gun that he bought to take the life potentially of another person or at least shoot them. And I think it's wrong. So some people on one side, which I think rarely, unless you completely fell off the cliff, will try to defend the fact that the guy produced the weapon and that Washington has stand your ground laws. There is no defense if you are the aggressor. So just remember, know the law when you carry your gun so you don't end up going to prison thinking that you were right about doing something you had no business doing. All right. And the gentleman spoke out, Mr. Harlow or Harold Powell Sr. He spoke out a little bit on the news, but he also has a GoFundMe. And what I will say is that if you feel compelled, if he was a regular guy, I wouldn't even mention his GoFundMe. If he was just a regular person on the street, two people get into a conflict, he didn't die, it's fine. But this man, and it's all the information that I've seen, he is a Navy veteran. He served in the military. He put his life on the line for our country. Let's see, is he a Navy? I think I got it right. He said he's a U.S. veteran, military veteran. Multiple accounts recognize that he's a veteran. He was in the farther front of Seattle, U.S. military veteran. Vietnam era submarine. Okay, who served this country, including details like being a Vietnam era submariner. I'm probably saying that wrong. Yeah, he's a veteran. Every account that I've looked up, this man served his country. And he deserved to get some respect. So I'm sorry, I was reading this thing. I just want to make sure I didn't get it wrong. So right now, unfortunately, if he was a thug, he would be at $1 million right now if he was a thug. But the man is a veteran and he got shot. And I think that if you are interested, because I'm going to give a little something, because I just want to show some love to the man who put his life on the line for this country to be free and get shot by a maniac. Could have killed him. Look at his grandchildren and all that stuff. Could have killed him. I hope you're a good man. I hope you're a good man. I'm going to give a little something. I'm not going to give a crazy amount of money, but I'm going to give a little something. Maybe I'll give $40, $20 or something. But if you're interested, give to him, because I think it's the right thing to do to support veterans from a nut job that go out and shoot a man for no reason or didn't have a good reason. All right, Donald Trump continues to have boots on the ground in Washington, D.C. There was a video that popped up just like, was it last night or this morning? I had looked at it. Was a black man walking through, it looked like right in front of the White House. He was walking around and he was alluding to the fact of it is a wonderful thing that Donald Trump has done what he's done, because he's actually made a difference when it comes to crime. Roll the clip.
Man, down the city is quiet as a church mouse, young. I came all the way down Pennsylvania Avenue this morning. So peaceful, young. I don't smell no weed, young. I don't see no homeless people. I mean, I came all the way through the southeast side, all the way down here. You can see now I'm at the White House jump, man. It's quiet, young. It's a shame that it takes somebody to have to sit in your classroom in order for you to be in order, young. Because that's what it feels like, young. You got to be babysitted to do your job, young. Stuff been out of control for years. You got to do better, young. You got to do better, young. And mainly, young, you got the problems. It's us, man. It's always us giving everybody a bad name, young. We'll see how long this lasts, yeah? How many murders was it last night? How many carjackings was it last night? Talk to me. And y'all keep on posting all these data numbers and things of that nature that y'all see everybody else reposting. The stuff that came from the Metropolitan Police Department and the mayor, yeah? Let me tell you something, yeah? Let me tell you something. You can't be that stupid. You can't be, man. Who enters that information to get that data analysis, yeah? People do. You can enter whatever numbers you want to make whatever report show what, but you can't hide the crime, young. You can't do it. Let me give you something to break it down to you for those that don't understand. I retired from UPS, right? So what they used to do to play with the numbers or whatever, we have mission packages. You'll have drivers over the hours. They'd go in and enter the information and the report would show whatever they needed to show to keep their bonus that week for their bosses not to fire their So stop believing that stuff. And I don't know if you ever had to deal with the DC government, young, but they suck, young. They have got a lot more better now that the officers have did what they had to do and got all of these people out of the government and got rid of the riffraff and things of that nature. People actually do work now. Let me give you this for example, right? You got carry and conceals or whatever that were being issued by the DC separate department that was handling the gun licensing and things of that nature. They went from turnaround time for like 4 months, 5 months for you to have to get a gun registered in DC and get a carry and conceal to 2 weeks. It used to take you 3 months just to get an appointment to talk to somebody and take your information and your gun down there. Now, you go online right now and they got appointments available tomorrow. How does that happen? What changed? You put some fire under their now they want to do some work.
Hey, I don't see a problem with what he said. I think that people don't understand that too, because although I do think that there's a lot of integrity associated with law enforcement, there's a lot of integrity associated with many city leaders and the way they compile statistical data. But bruh, there's human beings in putting this information into a system. I remember when I was in Tucson, I can't remember how it went, but when I was in Tucson, they changed the justification, or they changed the verbiage of a burglary versus a theft. And so what happens was that we were getting beer runs at the store so often. And because the person would forcibly take the beer, I think it was considered a burglary or something. I'm giving a hypothetical. And so what did we do? We ended up changing it to a shoplifting, and therefore it's a lesser crime. And when you look at the charts, our shopliftings or our beer runs, what they call it, beer skips, went to like 1,000% increase. And our burglaries went down to the lowest numbers that you see in the nation. And it's because we reclassified what constitute a certain crime when we put it into our system, which is it was supposed to be called our codes that we put in. Like if it's a murder, it's a 0101, if it, so on and so forth. It's the crime classification codes. And just that change made Tucson, Arizona, the highest shoplifting city in the entire nation in one, round of surveying. And that was because we simply changed it to make our city look better, and therefore our violent crimes went down, although the petty crime went up. They do this stuff all the time. If they want to adjust the numbers a little bit, they cut the unit. Therefore, you don't have traffic stops. You don't have law enforced. You don't have people getting arrested. And so therefore they go, arrests are down. Yeah, because you cut the unit that make most of the arrests. Or they'll say, we're not going to prosecute for a person with this much drugs. So cops can arrest you because it's against the law, but the prosecutor is not going to prosecute under a certain threshold. So what happens? We don't book the person because they're not going to prosecute the person. So just the change in prosecutorial standard will bring the arrests for that drug down. Like, for instance, in Arizona, In Phoenix, if you get caught, back when I was a cop, you get caught with any marijuana at the time. Felony. In Tucson, you get caught with any marijuana, like within reason. They call it personal use. They reduce the felony down to a misdemeanor every time. So what is that going to show as far as numbers? Felony convictions or felony crimes committed in Phoenix are astronomically higher than felonies committed in Tucson. That's because it's a misdemeanor for the same crime that on the books in the state of Arizona is a felony. It's called a felony waiver rule. And so that's how they skew the numbers and they manipulate the numbers in part. Real quick before I transition to the next topic, or as I continue this topic, somebody had made mention, Brandon, how can you say that the man who shot the man in the wheelchair was wrong? Go back and listen to my explanation. You cannot be an aggressor and then use self-defense as a defense. Brandon Tatum didn't just come up with this. The prosecution is using the exact same argument that I'm saying right now. You cannot pull a gun on somebody when you instigated the incident. It doesn't matter if your life is in danger at that point. If you instigate the incident and you provoke a person to act towards you, you can't use that as self-defense. And especially if the guy is in a wheelchair and you are 30 feet from him and he pulls out what you believe is a knife, or the airsoft gun is this big. That don't look like a gun anyway. So you were negligent with your firearms and the discharging of your firearms while you were the aggressor. Anybody with tactical common sense, if you think a man in a wheelchair is pulling a gun on you, then you just blade off to the side because he can't just turn like this. He's in a chair. Go behind him. Create some distance. You don't got to, if he pulls a gun out on you, all you got to do is run behind him while he's shuffling for his gun. You get behind him, draw your gun. Now he got his back turned to you. He got to try to turn all the way around and shoot you. Or at least blade off to the side. Anyway, let's continue the updates. So I want y'all to hear what Walsh had to say about the deployment of what, the DC police officers, or the taking over of DC police officers. Her name is Hope Walsh. Roll the clip.
Okay, so on the topic of book talk, as well as Trump's baby scaredy cat behavior in DC, it got me thinking of a book I read in college. I think it was when I was at the University of Minnesota. It was Locking Up Our Own by James Foreman Jr., and it talks about what led to, arguably, you should also read the new Jim Crow and then go into this one along with like a million in between, but that's just 1, 2. You kind of get it. None of those. But like modern mass incarceration of like black men, and it talks about DC and the war on drugs and how all of that led up to what we're now seeing. Also note the crime rate in DC is at the lowest it's been in 30 years. But this is a good book to kind of get like a larger viewpoint of this sort of stuff. And it's always been like one form of another of like the US locking up people that aren't like rich and white and men. And like we're very much seeing that continuation go on. I would argue also with what we see with Trump, it's just like more of it. Yeah, go read that book. This was not worded very well, but it's a really good book. But start with the new Jim Crow because that's just like the most basic level reading.
White lady, put her head back on the screen. White lady, we don't need you to be our savior. Stop talking about stuff you don't understand. Quit telling people that the plight of the black man is all these things. You've never been black a day in your life. You have no idea what a black experience with police officers really are. You're only listening to somebody complain about it or reading something in a book that you don't have enough common sense to realize could be in part biased. There's no threat against an over-incarceration of black people. Black people are committing crimes. You can't go to jail unless you commit a crime. Yeah, there are some people that have been falsely accused. That's like less than 1% of all people that ever go to prison. It's less than 1% of 1%. I mean, it's rare that somebody get falsely accused. You don't get arrested and go to jail unless you commit a crime. So maybe, just maybe, you need to start addressing the fact that black people need to stop committing so many crimes. Therefore, they won't be disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system. I seen the crime myself. I told you we were down there in D.C. when people were doing a takeover. Nothing but black kids. Now, this girl says crime is lower in 30 years. I put it in ChatGPT. It says, yes, violent crimes in D.C. from 2024 to have dropped 35% compared to 2023, marking the lowest it has been in over 30 years, including steep decline in homicides, robberies, carjackings, and assaults with dangerous weapons. Now, I want people to put this stuff in perspective, right? If you have an influx one year and it drops a little bit, that does not mean that the crime has stopped. That does not mean that it's gonna be that way in perpetuity. And also, when you look at numbers like this, you say, well, is it that homicides are not occurring, or are they occurring less, or that they're catching people less, that there's less enforcement of the laws, that robberies are less? No. This is how I look at it. When a robbery occurs, if it's not reported to the police, it didn't happen. If a theft occurs and it's not reported to the police, it didn't happen. And in some cases, if a theft occurs and they can't prove that like a robbery occurs and they can't prove that it was a robbery and they consider it just to be a theft, they're not going to classify it as a robbery. If somebody gets their car jacked and there's no evidence or no true accusation that makes it a carjacking, because there's a difference between getting your car stolen and you getting it stolen by force, then yes, some of those numbers are going to go down. If officers are not arresting people for these crimes, then the numbers are going to go down. My argument is that what are they basing these numbers on? So I just went real quick to the U.S. Attorney General's office, and I'm going to see real quickly if I can see how they base the numbers. Because when you look at the crime rates, for instance, you look at black people make up 13% of the population and they commit over half of all violent crimes. That's based on convictions. That's not just based on committal of crime. That's based on conviction of crime. So that means black people are convicted for 50%. That means that they are committing a crime at a higher rate. They're convicted at 50%. They're convicted at over half of all violent crimes. Convictions. So when it comes to these, are we talking about convictions? Are we talking about whether or not a person is investigated by police? What is the case? I'm just going to read this real quick and see. It says the total violent numbers in 2024 in the District of Columbia is down 35% in 2023 and its lowest it has been in 30 years, according to the data collected by the Metropolitan Police Department and announced in the U.S. Attorney General Mathis Graves breakdown of the data available. I want to see if they tell us how they're doing these stats. I'm gonna see if I can do it real quick. 60 below reflects the data entered record maintaining system in 12 hours or 12 a.m. on the data above. These numbers are based on a DC code offense definition and do not reflect Part 1 crime total as reported to the FBI National Incident-Based Reporting System. So the numbers is based on DC code offense definitions and do not reflect Part A, or 1, crime total as reported to the FBI's National Incident-Based Reporting. The report should be considerably preliminary in nature. The reports are subject to change due to subsequent determinations related to amendments in classifications, unfounded cases, or changes in offense definitions. So it looked like 2024, 2025. It's hard to interpret some of this stuff because I don't know how they classify it. But just because a person say that crime statistics overall is down, it doesn't mean that the people feel that way. And feel that way means that in your community is the crime down or not. In DC Metro is the crime up, but the crime is down the further you get away from the capital. I mean, these are things that people should, in my opinion, consider before they jump off the bandwagon, because the people of DC are saying that the crime is out of control and it has gotten worse. And I often wonder, just like I said, when they go to do the reporting, when they report a abuse or an assault with a dangerous weapon, or they do a burglary, are they classifying or changing the definition of what a burglary is and was. Is this based on police intervention, meaning that the cops have actually got a suspect and they cleared the case as a 0101, or they cleared the case as a burglary? I wonder, is those things do matter, because if you get into, let's say you get into a shooting and you don't have a suspect, but it's a shooting. You clear the call from the police perspective on local police. I mean, the patrol officer, you clear it as 0101, which is a homicide investigation. The detectives are still investigating. So I don't think that it's considered to be a cleared case. And so if the case isn't cleared, are you entering the crime statistic into the system if the case is not cleared? If you don't have a suspect, but you have a crime, are they entering the crime statistic into the system post-suspect, pre-suspect, or are they doing it whether they have a suspect or not? Or are they doing it after they've closed the case and arrested the suspect? These are things that I think that should be evaluated before we make a true determination. But we always know that the people are saying that it's crazy and it's out of control. And I think that people need to respond to that appropriately. And to be honest, it really doesn't matter, because even if the crime rate is down a 30-year low, it's still too high. And people should be able to have complete safety. It's not enough to say it's better than it used to be, but it's still people getting robbed every day. That, to me, that's not justification. All right, let's go to a couple of the clips. Let's see. Let's go to clip 4. Roll the clip.
Everybody get cuffed on. Don't touch me and I won't touch y'all. Okay, well, don't touch me and I won't touch y'all. That's all I'm saying.
Come on.
Don't touch me.
Tom, that's how we eat. You know? That's how we eat.
Eat good. Eat too good.
They didn't present shit.
Hey, search him without no.
I told his ass, get the back. He the only cool one, y'all. He want all chill mode, man.
So look, they're cracking down on crime committed by you know who. Okay, let's go to clip 5. Play it.
Swarm of law enforcement, including the feds in Northwest D.C. tonight amid President Trump's takeover of the district. This is in the Columbia Heights neighborhood around 14th Street and Perry Place Northwest. Both Homeland Security and Border Patrol were spotted on this scene. We're working to confirm what they were responding to and how many arrests were made. As you see, that very large police presence and law enforcement, federal law enforcement presence. We see all of their vehicles lined up there. A major show of force there in the D.C. streets in Columbia Heights. Again, you see several people being arrested on the curb there. We are working to find out more information, and as soon as we get it, we'll let you know. And right now, the first day of National Guard troops on the ground in D.C., also part of President Trump's effort to crack down on crime. Military vehicles spotted along the National Mall tonight. Fox 5's Nana Senyo Bonsu live in Northwest, where we're also seeing D.C. police very active tonight. Nana.
Hey, Kenneth, good evening. Not just D.C. police, we also have Border Patrol, U.S. Customs as well, pulling off over here, HSI. There's a lot happening right here on the scene that we're trying to gather. We were responding to some kind of large federal law enforcement presence. As you can see, a number of federal agents hopping in their car.
All right, let's go to clip. I want to react to this clip. I want to go to clip 6. Roll it.
So President Trump has federalized the police department in Washington, D.C., and people are upset. He's calling it Liberation Day for Washington, D.C., and I couldn't agree more. The crime in D.C. has ran rampant, and it's about time that people can now have faith and trust in law enforcement out there and be able to walk the streets and not get hit over the head or mugged I mean, why would anybody be upset with that? We just had a young member of Doge beat by a gang of young males. I mean, why would anybody have a problem with that? The left is calling him a dictator. They're calling him an authoritarian. A lot of names that they throw. A lot of word salads. Of course, they're calling for him to be impeached. But the people that support him is calling for more. This is what we voted for. And we're very happy that this man is making DC safe. He's making America safe. Look at the border. Have we had any other illegal border crossings since he took office? Nah. A big difference from what we've dealt with the last 4 years and who was responsible.
So this is why I tell you guys all the time, it's not the black man, it's the N-words that are the problem. That brother and the other brother I showed you guys are all reasonable men who are black, who aren't bought into the bull crap, and they can tell you exclusively and explicitly, you know, about the truth that's going on and not feel like they got to capitulate to a certain demographic of people because their skin color look alike. That's all I'm saying. Let me talk about Charlie Kirk and I'm gonna get up out of here. Charlie Kirk went on CNBC and lit it up. Charlie Kirk is one of those people where it's like, he's the Tom Brady of conservatives, right? When you put him somewhere, you know he gonna perform. He can put him anywhere, he gonna perform. You put him on campus, he gonna perform. You put him on the news, he ain't gonna miss. I'm just saying. So listen to this clip and listen to Charlie Kirk take them to the task on CNBC. Roll the clip.
We've all been debating for the last several months on this show and everywhere whether we're supposed to have our hair on fire or not about the tariffs and whether the tariffs are going to impact the economy, right? Yesterday, the president went after Goldman Sachs because that economist had said that he thought there'd be a recession as a result of the tariffs. Now, his original report, if you go back and look at it, was based on the idea that China might be at, 145% tariff rates. And so that calculation, the sort of the hair on fire thing at that point was if he actually does what he says he's going to do, yes, the economy might do that. It didn't do that in part because he didn't do that. And so what is, to the extent that you're like a mind reader of the president. What should the business community, how should the business community think about what he says versus what he's going to do?
This is not complicated. He wants what's best for America. It's not ideological. And he wants what's best both for capital and labor. And he wants the market to succeed. He wants wages to go up. And look, you look at the trade deals. The only reason we got the trade deals, which are inarguably wins and victories across the board, whether it be Japan, Philippines, EU, I think we will see a very good China deal, I hope, in the next couple of months, is because you use tariffs as a way to bring people to the table. And tariffs have largely been used as two things, national security components or as revenue generators. He has now created a third category, which is we're going to use it as a negotiation tactic. And he has the whole world spinning, and they're coming to the Oval Office wanting to get a deal done, wanting to come into the U.S. markets. And he's also recalibrated the way that we are financing the government. And a lot of the experts would say, hey, if you have any tariffs at all, and just to push back a little bit, it's not just the 145% tariff. They said, hey, if you have a 10% tariff, we're going to see massive inflation. If you have a 20%, we've now had 90 days of tariffs in place across the board. And the report yesterday, and the market responded, because the market doesn't lie. The inflation just wasn't there. The structural inflation was not there. And if it comes in the next couple months, then obviously we'll correct it. But the prices have not raised.
There really is a dichotomy of people in this country. Half the people, maybe not half, but there are a lot of people that look at Trump and say, you know what? Like Charlie, I think he's a negotiator. I've seen what he's done in the past. I think that he knows what he's doing. That's what they say. Whereas other people say, are you out of your mind completely? This guy has no idea. He's bankrupted.
There's individuals who can hold both ideas in their mind. By the way,
did you think he knew what he was doing with negotiations?
I thought he might be able to.
The art of the deal. He's written books. He's a businessman.
how far he'd get.
Because no one
and
really thought we were staying at
100.
No one thought we were going to stay at 140%.
Look, the question from an economic perspective on tariffs is you may collect the tariff on one end, and the question is what happens to the real economy on the other end.
And so far we have not seen.
And so far we haven't seen it yet.
There was a major, catastrophic prediction, right? The Panicans, the whole world's going to fall apart. And we just haven't seen that. And I think there does need to be a little contrition by the economic ruling class, hey, back when we were saying this was going to be the worst thing for the global markets ever, it turns out what it has done is it recentered America as the center point of the world economy, that people wanted to invest in this country.
And the best case scenario is that these countries, it's important to them that they continue to trade with us, and they're eating some of the tariffs, and they're not directly paying for it, but that's where the pain is.
And I don't want to speak for him, but I'm going to make a bet that if David Solomon were sitting here today, this is the CEO of Goldman Sachs.
I've met him.
Right. That there's part of David that likes some of the policies that this president has put forward around taxes.
More of them, not just some, most.
Right. And I'm sure he hates the fact that he is called out by the president and told to go back to being a full-time DJ or whatever the president said
told he is a good
yesterday.
DJ,
he is a good DJ. And so I think that's why I said it's not just that there's one side of the world that thinks one thing and one side of the world that I think there's actually individuals who can hold both ideas in their head.
Charlie,
and by the way, are confused.
Have you ever felt anybody that is even a quasi supporter of President Trump? And maybe I put myself in that category. There are plenty of times where you're uncomfortable trying to defend some of the things that are. Have you ever felt uncomfortable with anything?
I'm uncomfortable defending some of the things I've said a couple years ago. But look, I just look at results, and I look at this is a guy that goes to work every single day and produces wins for the American people. And look, real wages are up this year for working people, $1,100. We just saw the report that we're starting to see crude go down a little bit, and we need that definitely to have energy prices go down. Capital expenditures are going up, which is a leading prerequisite for economic growth. And I get all the objections. I just want to say one final thing, though, is that I think that we need to rework our mental model when it comes to Donald Trump, especially in people that are running companies, because they're looking too much on the flow on X, and they're not looking at the macroeconomic, geopolitical victory that President Trump is driving every single day, which is recentering America as the forefront leader of the world economy. In a post-COVID world,
I'm just an idealist to believe that we can.
Hold on, Andrew.
You're not the left. You're not intolerant.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
We did not receive any apologies from the ruling class that lied to us repeatedly during COVID. The lockdowns, the efficacy of the vaccine, the mask mandates, school closures, and we just act as if it didn't happen. And I don't think the American ruling class understands the undermining of their credibility that happened when the entire country had their lives thwarted, especially young people. We're just supposed to reopen the country and be like, well, why don't you trust us anymore? Well, it's because, the Hunter Biden laptops, Russian disinformation, 50 intel operations signed this letter. And I'm making a good point here because there was no contrition.
That's just one example.
And again, I could go one after the other.
No. I would say that actually COVID, to me, this is actually generational, is actually very much like the 2008 crisis in a way. That spawned Occupy Wall Street. This has sort of spawned a different sort of political.
Do you want to do Russia collusion? Do you want to do the laptop? Do you want to do? Take your pick on the way things are covered in this country.
All I'm suggesting, though, is this full-on, constant relitigation of what took place in the past, as opposed to a clear-eyed view of what's happening now.
I would just interject respectfully that it's not just relitigation. First of all, no one was held accountable largely for what happened.
That's why I said it's sort of like 2008, because a lot of people thought all those bankers were supposed to go to jail, frankly.
Well, and honestly, there should have been. I think there should have been some administration of justice. That's a separate issue. I was young at the time. I can only speak about what we're living through now. And a lot of the COVID injustices we are still seeing today with younger people and their ability to own homes, with the inflation that President Trump is trying to fix that was inherited by Joe Biden. So what I'm getting at, and I know a lot of the C-suite of America watches this program, they might understand where is this populist fervor coming from, is that you have missed the mark on so many of the core proclamations you made to the American people.
Explain to me.
So that's a lot of juice there. And it don't take much to interpret what Charlie said. It's very clear to me, in my opinion, unless you have Trump derangement syndrome, that Donald Trump is actively doing as much as he can to make America better in this overarching idea that we should be leading the world geopolitically. We should be leading the world in creating goods, having our manufacturing jobs come back to America instead of outsourcing them to China. Because to be honest, you can get anything from China. They knock off people's IPs. Like you can make some here in America. Better believe they making off a Temu version. So, I mean, all of that stuff, Donald Trump is working in the effort to create an environment where we are returned back to our rightful position, to have some of these things implemented again in America, to give Americans opportunities to have jobs, give Americans opportunities to produce and create, where we are now the producers or mass producers for the world in some form or fashion. You're never going to just completely get rid of what goes on in China and other places with cheap labor, but you can at least make us more competitive on certain products. And Donald Trump is acting in good faith. And I don't understand why the left can't be reasonable with him and want him to succeed. Instead, they hope he crash and burn so the whole country can crash and burn. And I think that's asinine. However, Charlie Kirk did a really good job at explaining that on CNBC. But anyway, I love you guys, man. I got to get out here and get my hair cut. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.
Oh, the land of the free